At the Summer Games Fest, the team at Santa Monica Studios announced a new God of War game with Laufey, and honestly, it has me a bit worried for the direction the studio is taking with regards to the series. Our trailer starts off with Laufey, or Fey's death from the start of God of War 2018, where she is transported to an afterlife for the gods. Fey's soul is transported to the realm of the Everyone, where she awakes disoriented and visibly confused, looking for Kratos and Atreus. Shortly after, she realizes she is actually dead and her body was burned on the pyre, as she starts to navigate her way through a newfound environment. After this, and dealing with some threats, Fey scavenges some armor and a weapon and quickly ties into the mask we were introduced to in God of War Ragnarok, where Fey knows Kratos and Atreus are in danger. With this realization, Fey resolves herself to find a way to assist Kratos and Atreus to navigate the dangers which Fey seemingly knows is lurking. All this happens right before getting captured by Sekhmet, the Egyptian goddess of war, and Begste, the Mongolian or Tibetan god of war. Fey, as defiant as the character is meant to be, refuses and goes as far as to threaten the two gods of war which stand in front of her, before an event draws Sekhmet away, leaving Fey in the hands of Begste. We are then shortly introduced to Frank and Rue. Rue, who is the ribbons attached to the sword, and Frank, who is a gelatinous cube, who reveals Fey is trapped in the Everyone, which is the afterlife for the gods. Fey then comes to the realization that her powers and herself aren't working in the way she's used to. With suggestive prompts from Frank, Fey uses her love for Kratos and Atreus to refocus herself in the everywhere and start to regain control of her powers, and not long after that we see Kratos helping Fey to her feet before he disappears into the ether. Not long after that we are introduced to some small combat wave where Frank and Rue assist Fey, where Fey is now wielding the sword Rue is attached to, and shortly thereafter a fight with Begste breaks out. And as we know from previous entries that Fey went toe to toe with Kratos on their first meeting, so it really shouldn't come as a shock that she can hold her own. So now I hear you say, this looks sick, what's to worry about? Well, allow me to pull this apart. Now before I begin, I've seen a few reels and my brother has shot me a reel where there are comments about Mum of War and references to Laufey where this could be misunderstood as a female lead shouldn't happen in a God of War game. And well, if I'm being totally honest with you, I don't subscribe to that train of thought. One of the first games I ever played at the ripe old age of 12 had a badass female lead, whom to this day is a pillar and benchmark for all games, and I suspect you might have heard of it with Tomb Raider. And in more recent times, I am a mega fan of the world of Horizon Zero Dawn, with Aloy being in the lead role. So no, I 100% love a female lead in any game, and that's perfectly fine, but regardless of male or female lead, the writing needs to be solid in order to relate and to connect to the characters. Now I have to call out here that the God of War series is a game series which resonates with me on many levels. From when I was first introduced to it as a teenager who didn't always have the best time at school, God of War gave me the tools to navigate and strengthen myself against my own obstacles at the time. And then in 2018, when God of War was reintroduced in the Norse saga, Kratos is a father, and seeing him switch gears to restrain himself to make his son better than him, and to not have his son suffer through Kratos' own trials and tribulations honestly struck a nerve with me, which had me on many nights and still does get me on some nights to this day, considering how I can be better.
I am sorry.
Don't be sorry, Father. Be better.
Corey Barlog, who is the head of creative at Santa Monica Studios, introduces the game director in God of War Laufey with Ariel Lawrence, and she has some serious credentials behind her. As we learn very quickly, she's been involved with God of War IP from day one, so we wouldn't think there is much to worry about here, right? Well, in the YouTube video, God of War Laufey introducing Fey, we meet the narrative director, Jimmy Myers, and lead writer of Elise Morgan. stating right out of the gates that they were introduced to God of War from the 2018 game, with Elise saying she joined Santa Monica Studios while the team were working on God of War Ragnarok. Now, this is no disrespect to these fine folks, but it does make me wonder, how immersed are they in God of War if they were introduced to it from 2018? I mean, right away, I would hope they've done their research and understood the source material and at least played and understood where the God of War series came from and how it got to where it is today, because that is damn important to the fanbase. Elise calls out Faye being a guardian of Midgard, where really God of War 2018 and Ragnarok portray Faye as hiding in Midgard. Yes, 100% the story explains she was instrumental in working with Tyr in assisting the Jotun escaping the Aesir into Jotunheim and sealing it off, and keeping the giants out of arm's reach of the Aesir. The game even calls this out in the same video Elise is in, trying to explain Faye as a character. I mean, that's a minor pickup, and I could be nitpicking, but to me, having that depth of knowledge here is crucial in order to really drive a narrative around the character. Elise then calls out here all gods return to the afterlife of the gods at the end of their life. So let's consider the past for just a brief moment here, and by past I mean God of War 1, 2 and 3, Ghost of Sparta and God of War Ascension. In these games, Kratos worked his way through an all-star lineup of the entire Greek pantheon, including the big three of Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus himself, let alone Hera, Hercules, Helios, Athena, Hermes, and the list goes on, let alone chaining Atlas to the bottom of Earth and killing Titans. If you know the games, you know this is one hell of an extensive roster of gods that Kratos has laid waste to. Now let's consider for a moment that the premise around the original God of War trilogy is that when Kratos opened Pandora's box to gain the powers to fell a god in his fight against Ares, that this let out an infection which drove the Greek pantheon crazy. Now they are all dead and that infection is gone. Imagine waking up in the afterlife, seeing your entire family and friends in the afterlife with you. Regardless of being infected or not, what unites people and rallies them to a cause more than anything? Having a common enemy. So given the logic, realistically, the entire Greek pantheon is in the everyone with Faye, and if one of them suspects or confirms that Faye is connected to Kratos, they might have some strong feelings about that. And let's remember, the pantheon was in a sort of balance before Kratos took to it, so these guys already know how to work together. So really, Faye shouldn't be worried about Begster and Sekhmet at all. She should be worried about the gods that Kratos gift-wrapped and delivered to the everyone personally. I understand that as a creative writer, you need to take liberties, but there just seems to be like there is a gaping hole in this story of the everyone, and the writers either didn't know the whole story or just straight up haven't understood the assignment. And with them being exposed to God of War from 2018, that feels very much the case to me. You can't argue that the everyone is only for the Norse gods, as Sekhmet and Begster are our lead characters from the trailer. And if I sit here and think about it, Elise and Jimmy, though, make an awesome point. Faye is heavily involved in the story and we only see her influence on events through the lens of other characters, and we don't get to know Faye as a character. I actually think they're 100% right, and I honestly just disagree with the direction the game is heading in purely because of the holes the team have opened up with the lore of the everyone. If anything, a God of War Laufey game should happen, but it should follow Laufey as she worked with Tyr to get the Jotun to safety away from the grasp of the Aesir. A game which truly lets us experience Laufey, and through her rise to the Guardian of the Jotun, sees her commissioning the Leviathan axe from the Huldra brothers. As she is working to free her people, she is hunted down by the Aesir, and as we know from God of War Ragnarok, Faye and Thor have had a run-in previously. Why isn't this being explored? There is much to learn about Faye, her trials, her fights, her wins, her losses. In my opinion, it should have led to a final boss fight with her escaping to Midgard and running into Kratos for the first time. And Kratos should have been the final fight to the game, because after that, well, as they say, the rest is history. To me, it just feels like the team have missed an amazing opportunity to fill in some gaps and give Faye a game in the God of War universe without directly having Kratos or Atreus involved, but leads to the introduction of Kratos in Norse mythology, setting up the world for the events of 2018 and beyond. As I mentioned before, I have a deep respect and love for the God of War universe, as it has had a profound impact on me personally, and I don't think having a Laufey game is a bad idea at all. I just think what the team are pitching just doesn't work cohesively with the entire universe which has been established, and that has left some huge gaps, which as an original fan just doesn't make sense to me, and I find myself unable to make sense of where this is going just because of the gaps. I'm more worried than excited, and maybe it's just me, but with the legacy of the storytelling that Santa Monica has delivered before with the God of War story, I expected something a little more refined without giant gaps in the logic. I honestly hope for the success of the game, but I do feel like this is a step in the wrong direction. We, the fans, both old and new, who understand the history deserve better, and I honestly hope my concerns and worries aren't warranted, but time will tell if maybe I'm worried for nothing.
Giants. They really are all gone. There's nothing for us here.